Here is part 10 of this book. So Brad, mouth open, frozen on top of this table while the rest of the group was away and unknowing of what was transpiring, this mold creature slowly dripped fluid into his mouth, and as he tried to not swallow the cold, icy liquid, it was too late. Brad felt his body grow ice cold and sharp, and he felt numb. And he thought to himself, the pain he was experiencing right now, he thought to himself, is this hell? Am I dying? Is this it for me? He witnessed this moldy, watery stain on the ceiling slowly shrink and disappear as the rest of the fluid dripped into his mouth, and he was forced to swallow the possession fluid. So Eddie had finally departed from the rest of the group, and he made his way through the woods back to the crashed tram where they started, and he shot at all the random creatures that popped out of nowhere, and he defended himself pretty good. And there was one point where he was completely surrounded and attacked by these giant wormy aliens with teeth all around their open mouths. Somehow, Bro got a live grenade, and he was about to pull the pin, thinking that this was it. He had been attacked. He'd been latched on by one of the worms. He managed to defend himself and fend off these weird creatures that kept surrounding him. And he was about to pull the pin when he stopped. And now we change scenes to Christopher, who is screaming and being carried off by this giant eagle. He's thinking, it's going to take me back to a nest. It's going to peck my eyes out. I'm going to die. No one's going to know where I am. And I will never see my mother again. Now, when I started this book, I was expecting something completely different, very quirky and unique and goofy. And this is just, the storyline switches. So Christopher was dropped off by the eagle in the middle of the woods. There was a makeshift deep ice rink, like in the middle of the desert, right? We're in New Mexico, and there was just this random frozen ice rink, large, deep into the ground. It was just kind of like a crater. He couldn't escape it. No matter how hard he tried to stand up, he kept slipping and falling and ending up on his back, and he kept trying to crawl or scoot or make his way to the ledge of this deep ice rink. It was kind of like an in-ground pool, per se. He couldn't claw his way out. He couldn't stand upright. He couldn't get out. What a random spectacle in the middle of the woods like this. And then once again, when Christopher took a moment and take a breather and try to regain some of his strength, he took a better look into the ice itself. And there he saw frozen, screaming human faces. Like, he couldn't see the rest of their bodies, but he saw up towards the surface of the ice frozen, horrifying faces of dead people. And the urgency set in pretty good, where he needs to get the heck out of there. And as he tried to make his way to the ledge, and a lot of scrambling occurred, a lot of clawing at the edge, he tried to get out of this crevice, this crater of ice. But, and this is where the story turns to completely ridiculous in my opinion. It's still fun, but I just kind of lost interest when this giant blue scaly ice demon peeked up over the ledge, grabbed Christopher by the throat, and this is our comic relief character. So this creature grabbed Christopher around the throat, his icy hands bore deep into his skin, and this monster lifted him up to be face to face, and it whispered, "Hello, Christopher." Bro was shitting bricks at this point. What was gonna happen? But now, before we continue with that, we swap to the point of view of Lee and Barbara, who were venturing through the halls of this concrete dark building. They tried to throw open doors, and the doors were blocked. They were trying to figure out what this building was about. And after moments of silence and trying to force open doors, they heard something wet slap across the floor, some sort of gooey, creepy monster that was creeping towards them around the hallway. They realized, we probably shouldn't be in here by ourselves. This is kind of stupid. So they stood there in the hall trying to wait for this thing to pass, and they look up to see another mold monster, something with eyes that looked liquid and moldy that stared at them from the ceiling down at them, and they're like, we gotta bug out of here. So they freaked out and they shot back to the main area where they left Brad and the rest of the people. So now back at HF Enterprises, Mark and Hannah looked out the window of the giant building outside of the forest that managed all the tours, and they watched as the giant Humvees and the military vehicles of the teams that were supposed to save this group that is stranded in the middle of the woods, they made their way into a caravan into the woods. And as they hit the tree line, 4 of the biggest ogres they have ever seen popped out of nowhere and began tearing this group apart gruesomely.